Hi, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope to have a forecast you will love, if for today and today only, out of the 2 weekend days, because unfortunately tomorrow we're talking about a weather impact alert with storms, and some storms could be strong or even potentially severe. So we got a lot to get to. I'm going to start with the good news. Let's start with the Valentine's Day forecast. Live look right now out over Neptune Beach, and I've loved seeing couples come and go on their romantic Valentine's Day walks. Gorgeous out there. Blue skies, blue water, lots of sunshine. In fact, let me pull up this live camera from all across the First Coast too, where you can see that we have these blue skies, just wall to wall sunshine from Georgia to Florida. Now, what are our temperatures in this 11 o'clock hour? We are warming up. We're getting up into the 60s and Palm Coast already at 70 degrees, where a lot of us will land in the 70s later on today. Now, your high temperatures, 70s for inland spots. If you are closer to the beach, you're going to be in the 60s for your high temperatures. So this is something to remember if maybe you live in Lake City and you want to take your sweetheart for a walk on the beach and you're driving towards the beaches. Temperatures will be dropping by about 10 degrees in the afternoon highs. So if anyone doesn't like the cold weather like me, I'll say it, I'm a wimp when it comes to the cold weather. 64 degrees on the beach with the breeze would mean I would be cold. So I would need long sleeves. Some of you will not need long sleeves, but I just want to give you all that heads up out there. And then, of course, inland, it's beautiful. It is breezy out there, though. In fact, let's get a look at our current winds right now. We have double digits now at the Jacksonville Airport. Same for Brunswick, St. Simon's Island, Mayport, and St. Augustine. Any gusts loading? Let's check this out. Yeah, St. Simon's Island recorded a gust of 20 miles an hour. But again, temperatures right now are sitting in the 60s, except for Palm Coast. Palm Coast right at 70 degrees. But it is getting warmer out there for a lot of us, with places like Southeast Georgia, coastal Southeast Georgia, warmer by 4 degrees, NAS Jacks, warmer by 6 degrees. So generally speaking, here's a look at your hour by hour. Now, we already talked about how the beaches, it's in the 60s. Inland, it's low 70s. So I did take a general high of around 70 degrees for our hour by hour, which means for dinner time, your Valentine's Day dinner date, temperatures will be dropping down through the 60s and then down into the 50s later on. But comfortably cool for any Valentine's Day dinners. And then as we head into Sunday, that's when changes arrive. So notice that the morning low says 55 degrees. It's a little bit milder of a start tomorrow morning. In fact, here's a look at your lows across the First Coast for tomorrow morning, and we will be in the 50s. And so while this morning a lot of us dropped down even into the low 40s, tomorrow it is warmer to start the day and in the afternoon hours. In fact, I'm going to find this graphic for you all. Here we go. Our high temperatures tomorrow reaching near 80 degrees. A little bit of a temperature difference there across Southeast Georgia. That's really just if the rain and the storms move in before you reach your afternoon peak heating hours, that would prevent that from warming up. But rain and storms, oh yes, rain and storms on the way. We have a weather impact alert in effect for Sunday. Now, I moved the timing on this a little bit. Just depending on some different model runs that came in this morning, they've kind of bounced back and forth with speeding up, slowing down, speeding up, slowing down. So I decided to start it at 2 o'clock because some models had the rain moving into Southeast Georgia by 2 p.m. Others are a bit delayed. In fact, let's look together now at the newest model run from the graph. This is an in-house model. Earlier this morning, it was saying at 1:30, it was knocking on Waycross's doorstep. And that's why I bumped it up to 2. But now you can see here, it's more like 2:30 that it's moving into Waycross. So I still like that 2 o'clock hour to account for those far western areas there in Ware County. And then as we move towards 3 o'clock, starting to approach Folkston, arriving closer to 3:30. Same for Lake City, Folkston to Lake City. Then it will continue to move towards Brunswick for an Indiana Beach around 4:30, moving through Union County, Baker County, Bradford County as we approach the 5 o'clock hour, passing through Duval. So Jacksonville, 4:30 to 5 o'clock for you. And then this will continue to move in through the evening hours, push southeast. So Green Cove Springs, closer to 5:30. St. Augustine, this is closer to 6 o'clock. Same for Palatka. Again, this model is now slower. It was all about an hour to 2 hours earlier this morning. So just keep in mind, St. Augustine, I'm saying 5:30, but don't be surprised if it's 4:30 or 6 o'clock. Unfortunately, these models, they're good at being more detailed, but the timing can just be off by an hour or two. You probably know that if you stay very weather aware with us, but this is the general time frame that I'll be watching for places like St. Augustine, 6 o'clock. And then moving down to Palm Coast around 7. And that's when we're also, of course, watching Daytona for the Daytona 500. In fact, I'll move this down. Let's see if I can move it south. There you go. So Daytona Beach, starting to see that rain closer to 7:30, 8 o'clock, but it could be a little bit earlier. So around 7 p.m. is when we're going to start to get concerned about the rain for the Daytona 500. Here's our forecast as of right now. 500. Did I just say 400? I feel like I just said 400. Daytona 500. Now, temperature sitting in the 70s, warmer, and then the rain arrives later. But we have a weather impact alert here on the First Coast because of the heavy rain on the way, but also the risk of storms. And unfortunately, some storms could be severe. So if you take one thing away from the weather stream today, I want it to be that I need to stay weather aware tomorrow afternoon and evening because of the risk of severe storms. The risk is low, but we did get upgraded to a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. So this is from the Storm Prediction Center. Notice how most of our area is yellow. You can see up here, let's see if I can, there we go. So that bar there shows you 2 is highlighted in yellow. That's called slight, but it's a level 2 out of 5 for our severe weather risk. So it's not the lowest. So it's something that we're paying close attention to. The ingredients are there in the atmosphere, so that when that line of storms arrives, they could have very strong winds associated with them. Wind gusts of 40 to 60 miles an hour. Once you get wind gusts of 60, that can cause some damage. Definitely knocking over the trash cans, and any loose outdoor lightweight items. But at 60, you can kind of get some tree branches down, some damage to some power lines, get some power outages. So we'll watch that closely. Heavy downpours. We do need that, of course, because of the drought conditions we're in, but heavy rain is expected. It's just like we want the rain, we just don't want the severe weather with it. So we'll have to watch out for the winds. And yes, it says isolated tornado possible. It is true. We do have enough there that we'll have to watch out for a bit of spin. So there could be an isolated tornado that spins up. That risk, again, low, but not zero. So we are going to watch that very closely. And again, just to show you the timing of that, we said 2 to 8 o'clock. So it kind of moves in through the afternoon hours and then early evening or late afternoon, really arriving to places like Duval County. And then it continues to push southeast throughout the rest of the evening. Now, as mentioned, we do want the rain. We are in a drought. Rainfall totals not as great as they could be. This model now a little bit higher, up to half an inch to 3/4 of an inch. Some places try to get close to an inch of rain. We'll take it. We would love if that happens. We want it to happen, but again, it's not going to be a drought-busting amount of rain. Well, let's take a look at our drought monitor real fast, just to, again, give you guys the idea of what we're dealing with. All of Florida under drought-like conditions, all of Georgia under drought-like conditions, and here locally, most of us under an extreme drought. In fact, this is the worst drought that we've had in the Jacksonville area since May of 2012. And that, of course, means that we have a fire risk. Well, today that fire risk is there because it's dry, it's warm, so please be careful. Now, tomorrow, not as high of a risk because of the rain on the way, but still, since the rain arrives later in the day, we're going to see that opportunity for a fire risk for our far southeastern areas. Then we move into Monday as we start to dry out again. Still not too bad. Let's see. Let's move this closer to... There you go. So there's still a moderate risk. And then unfortunately, that will just increase as we head later in the week. Because even Monday morning, there could be a few showers around. I do expect us to see some lingering showers after that main line moves through on Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening. There could be a few lingering showers again, like moving in behind it Sunday night into Monday morning. And then we'll be drying out later on our Monday. And so it's going to be cooler. It's going to be drier later on. And our high temperature is staying upper 60s to near 70 degrees. So that is cooler than Sunday, when tomorrow we get to near 80. But we are going to warm right back up behind that. So temperatures do increase into the lower 70s on Tuesday and then rebound right back into the 80s starting on Wednesday. We'll be in the lower 80s for the rest of the work week. And notice that we stay dry Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday. Those rain chances look very low. So that's not good for our drought. It's not good for our fire risk. So unfortunately, that is something that we'll be watching again as we head into next week. For this weekend, though, looking pretty good out there today. Lots of sunshine. Let's get another live look out across the First Coast because it's so beautiful and blue. And then later on this evening, our sunset is going to be around 6:11 p.m. So in case you want to head out right there to Jacksonville Beach, that's the pier, and take a sunset evening stroll on the beach, it will be beautiful. It will be dry. Different story Sunday. So if you are looking for an evening walk, you have to do it tonight. Now, as for our temperatures again, they will be dropping down through the 60s. So we'll continue to keep an eye on our evening plans for dinner time. In fact, I'm going to try to find you a model that shows you those temperatures. Give me 1 second. Let's look for this. Here we go. Here's one. Let's see if this loads up correctly. So we approach 70s later on today, this evening. It's not exactly. I don't love it. All right, y'all. I don't actually really like that. Let's stick with this. Dropping through the 60s for your evening time, dinner time, then down into the 50s. But that's really where we will be staying. Those lows staying in the middle 50s for these evening hours. So overall, a nice Valentine's Day. Please stay weather aware for our Sunday with that weather impact alert in effect. Starts at 2 p.m. It goes until 8 p.m. We're going to have heavy rain. We will have some thunderstorms. Now, can those storms be severe? There's a level 2 out of 5 risk of some of those storms being severe. So winds of up to 60 miles an hour and an isolated tornado risk that we'll have to watch out very closely for. But we will be doing extra streams tomorrow. So, of course, we'll be here at 11 a.m. on Sunday. We're also going to be back at 4 p.m. and at 8 p.m. And don't forget that if there is a severe thunderstorm warning, we will also be streaming that for you. All right, so this has been a look at your local weather. We are looking forward to the Artemis launch, and meteorologist Robert Speta went to the Kennedy Space Center to get some information on that. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, you'll get to hear from Robert all about that launch.
If you are traveling to the Space Coast or just interested in astronomy, this is the place you need to go. Of course, NASA's Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. And today we're gonna go through and check out all the different exhibits, including get an up-close look at the Artemis spacecraft. Let's go check it out. And even before you enter the gate, the science is already hitting you. The classic clock used for the launches is near the front, and this massive 3D TV in the rockets can be seen right there in the distance. One of the first things you'll see once you come in is, of course, the rocket garden. It's just this whole slew of different rockets from throughout the space age, including a replica, I believe the Saturn V right there. We're gonna come back to this though. First, we're gonna go out and actually see some of the real rockets up close out at the gantry. The Kennedy Space Center is unique compared to other theme parks in that you have the option to get on a bus and go to several different locations versus sitting around in one spot. First, we set off to the gantry at platform 39. On the way, you can see multiple famous locations like Launch Control, the VAB or the Vehicle Assembly Building, which is the largest building on Earth by volume. And we pass by the Crawler, which is the largest self-powered vehicle on Earth. This is the vehicle that takes the rocket up to the launch pad. It's about 130 feet long, 115 feet wide, and about the size of a baseball infield. So we're here at LC39B. This is the gantry. It's the newest attraction here at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex. And here you can get an up-close view at some of the launch pads, but also they have the whole complex here. All this education on board, including this mocked-up rocket engine here, which in just about 15 minutes is going to be running a test fire. It's going to be interesting. Now, that is not a real engine by any means. It's more of a simulator in that it was used to represent the physical locations and geometry of a space shuttle main engine, so ground crews could test and practice working on one that looks like the real one. Now, it's a neat addition to this tour. So check this out, the views from the top of the gantry. You can see all the different launch platforms out here, but as well, we have a very close-up view of launch pad 39A. And this one is awesome. This is where the Apollo missions took off from. Apollo 11 launched from right there. And 39B right over there has, well, Apollo's Greek twin sister, Artemis, sitting on the launch pad. So check this out. You can take this and kind of point it at any of the directions and it'll show you, okay, now we're looking at LC39A. This is where all the famous Apollo launches took place, including Apollo 11 right from that launch pad. Then we look over here, you can see the other launch pads because there's plenty of them. SLC 40. This is where the rockets were originally built in the 1960s. The Titan program took off there. We can look at some of the other ones, like this one right here. I wonder what that is. 41. That was also built back in the 1960s. This is cool. Also at the gantry, you can stop by the Earth Observation Building. I love this. It's neat to see other people learning about meteorology and climate change, but as a meteorologist, truly appreciate this. And one thing that space exploration has given us is the realization that we all live on this little blue ball together, floating in space. This thought is really demonstrated in this photo taken by Voyager at the edge of our solar system. Everything that ever is or ever was with humanity is on that little blue dot there. It's important to take care of it. Now we're back on that bus. And where we're headed next is the Saturn V Center, the building dedicated entirely to the Apollo era and the rocket that was used to make it possible to go land on the moon. You enter the museum and are greeted by the massive Saturn V rocket. This massive rocket hanging from the ceiling is a one-to-one of the ones that went to the moon. In fact, this one is built with all the same hardware. It was just never meant to fly and instead is used as display. really gives you a sense of scale of this rocket. The Saturn V building also has a scale model of the lunar lander seen here, but the crown jewel, in my opinion, of this exhibit is the actual Apollo 14 capsule. So check this out, this is the actual Apollo 14 capsule. That's why it's got the burn marks all over it. This thing went up. Now this doesn't land on the moon, it orbits around, and then it came back carrying 3 astronauts on board. This was after the infamous Apollo 13, and behind that, of course, 15, 16, and 17 also landed on the moon too. But pretty incredible to see that up close in person. Plus, if you get the time, make sure you check out the entire collection here of different types of moon rocks. The bus tour drops you off right at the Atlantis exhibit, which is a must-see. This has got to be one of the just most wow exhibits here at the Kennedy Space Center. The actual Atlantis. She flew 33 missions into space and back, and now it's here on display. Just absolutely incredible. Plus, in the same building, you can find a very moving memorial dedicated to those who lost their lives on the Challenger and Columbia shuttles. The 2 space shuttles were lost in 1986 and 2003, including actual pieces of those spacecraft. Right after you enter the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, you'll come right up to the rocket garden. And there are numerous rockets here from different ages of space exploration. From some of the earliest ones, some of the biggest, like the Saturn V sitting over there. So check this one out. This is the Titan. And this thing, believe it or not, was a ballistic missile before it was used to send people into the space. One of those Cold War relics that were repurposed for space travel. And you actually see that a lot. And that was really the whole Apollo program was all part of the Cold War. But it's really cool to see, something that was designed for destruction, sending people up into space. This was used for Gemini missions. All right, let's see what it feels like to sit inside one of these. Come up here. Oh, goodness. Oh. All right. Jeez, that is not comfortable. Oh, I think you're supposed to sit like this. Oh, I got it. Oh God, you're supposed to be like this inside of it. Oh, that makes more sense. Oh God. Oh, here. Okay, there we go. Now I'm ready to go to space. Apparently, in the world's smallest freaking barrel. Jesus. This is all next to the Gateway experience. Lots of activities here. You can test your skills as a pilot or see what it's like to ride in the Blue Origin capsule. A slew of different stations to learn about science and astronomy. And that's what it's all about. Well, I'd give this place a 10 out of a 10. Now, I am a science nerd and I've always loved astronomy and space, but there's just so much educational stuff here. It's a lot of fun and it's so interesting, all the real world stuff that they have here at the Kennedy Space Center complex. The actual rockets and capsules that went onto these missions into space, and then being able to see Artemis and the launch pads up close. Spectacular. I would say give it 2 days. We're here for 1 day, and there's so many other things that we kind of missed out on, all the rides and there at the Gateway, but still, lots of fun. Big thing though is always get out there, keep learning, and keep exploring. I'm meteorologist Robert Spetta.